to another episode of First Down by CoachTools. Today I'm here with Coach Paul Hanson from MidAmerica Nazarene University. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Coach Hanson, he's the head coach at MNU, and we're going to talk a little bit about his coaching experience, how he got into his current role, and also some advice he has for other coaches. So to start things off, Coach, can you just share with the audience a little bit about your background and how you've gotten into your current role?
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks again for having me. And I was one of those guys who went to college and played at Evangel University, a 4-year institution in Springfield, Missouri, and kind of went into Evangel not totally knowing what I wanted to major in and all that, and then pretty quickly I figured out it was kind of coaching, and I wanted to get into the coaching area, and so I got my degree in PE. And really after towards the end of my career there, I kind of just kind of got to know a lot of people and kind of move up the ranks that way. And really my first coaching job was at a middle school. I was like the B team coach or something like that. So I didn't really do a whole lot, but at that moment, after kind of coaching, I kind of realized that, hey, this is something I want to try to make a career out of. And so really that's kind of how it kind of started for me. And just really kind of get connected with people that have, one, to have my best interests, but two, just that kind of aligned with some of the things that I was trying to do in my profession.
Yeah. And can you talk more about that? Like what your goals were when you first started off?
Yeah, I think, when I first kind of got started, I wasn't 100% sure. I know I loved football, but I just didn't really quite understand what it took on the coaching side. Obviously, we've all played and we have those type of goals, but really I was just like a young coach that was had a lot of energy, and really I was able to get around some really good people that had coached for a long time that kind of could see my potential, but also kind of mentor me and direct me in the way that I needed to go as a coach. And really along the way too, getting when you're with those type of people who have your best interests, they help you actually get better jobs down the line. And so I was able to do that and get connected with a lot of close friends who were moving up the ranks as well. And I was able to do that. But really, after I kind of got in the high school area, I went to my first AFCA convention, and my very first one I went by myself. I didn't really know anyone. It was actually one in Florida, and I left kind of amazed, like, hey, this is an awesome profession. And really on that plane ride back, actually, I still have the notebook today. I made like 10 to 15 goals of things that I wanted to accomplish within 10 years. And really 4 years ago when I got this job at MidAmerica, I kind of pulled that out and looked at it, and it was kind of cool to see all the goals that I kind of had reached. And so that was I'm a really goal driven person. And so to meet a lot of those goals was really big for me.
So advice wise, what would you suggest maybe a young coach should be doing, like as they're just getting started from a goal perspective?
Yeah, I think the first thing is make sure you align yourself with people who have your best interests for one. I think a big thing is don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and let coaches know what your goals are and what you want to do, and really try to keep those connections and networking with those people. I think that's something that really helped me. And I think that was one of the things that as I was going through this, I was continuing just to talk to other coaches. I went and worked a lot of camps, especially really early on, just so coaches would know who I was, but also I could maybe use those coaches as like a reference for me later when I was trying to get a job. And really, it worked out good for me because those coaches, or some of those people, were the people that were calling to knock down the door for me to get a job. And so that was really big.
Yeah. And I think just with anything else, and this obviously goes for playing, especially when you're getting recruited, like the more that you can do without any expectation, I think the better. And it seems like that's what he did. Just kind of just to get your foot in the door early on. So I can definitely resonate with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. You got to be willing to do any job too. You know what I mean? You can't just go into a situation and think that you're only going to do certain things. If you go in there with a good attitude, good mindset, it's kind of the same stuff we teach our players. Uh, but if you do that as a coach and you work really hard, it will pay off for you for sure.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned a little bit about like your playing career. So how long have you been in the profession?
Yeah, so this is my 18th year right now, kind of going all the way back to my very first coaching job, and so it's my 18th year, and it's flown by. There's a lot of moves in there as well. I think that's another thing too that like a lot of coaches got to realize is that if you really want to move up the ladder, you really want to do certain things in the profession, you're going to have to be willing to move. I think at one point we lived in 5 states in 7 years, our family, and so, but that was something I was willing to do, and but it's well worth it at this point in my career, and that's something that just that I had to learn pretty fast.
Yeah. And some of it, like at some of your previous jobs, were you a coordinator? Like, when did you start off as a position coach? Can you just share more about your background?
Yeah, so I think I took that my very first job as a middle school coach, and I think that was the best thing for me too because just because I played the game of football didn't mean I knew how to teach it. You know what I'm saying? And so I think going to the middle school level, like right out of playing, it really kind of taught me how to learn how to be a good teacher, but also a good communicator with the players. And that was something that I did for 2 years. And then I moved up to the high school ranks right after that as a receiver coach. And I was in a good situation too, where you win. All right, winning solves a lot of things, and so all those situations we won everywhere I was at in those situations. And so I started going through that process. I started to say, hey, I want to be a coordinator, I want to be a head coach, and so I started preparing myself that way. Even though maybe I wasn't in that role, but I started preparing myself for like, okay, when I'm in this situation, this is how I'm going to handle that versus whether it's a play calling or it's being a head coach. And so after that, I became a coordinator, had a lot of success. A lot of it has to do too is have good players, right? Every play works on the whiteboard, but if you don't have good players, it doesn't matter. And so I think that was one of the things that I was just blessed to be in good situations where we were winning, but also have really good players, and that would also obviously help prepare your career. And then really after that, one of my best friends kind of got a college job and brought me on as the OC and had the success there as well. And so that's kind of how I just kind of kept moving up the ranks. And it was winning, being around good people, and obviously having good players always helps.
Definitely. Definitely. And from your like experiences being a coordinator and a position coach, what are some of your like coaching philosophies that you've taken with you along the way?
Yeah, I think number one is I think you got to know your players. Okay, you got to know. I think you got to know what they're good at and what they're not good at. I think you need to know how they learn, because I think once you're able to meet those two areas, you want to be able to maximize their skill set. All right. End of the day, if they're a really good player, you're going to make sure you're maximizing that. And so, if the players don't know what they're doing, or we're not getting the ball to them in the right area, the right situation, then it kind of affects the game, and it kind of affects how they can prepare, but also how they can produce for you as a coach. So I think early on, I was trying to do that. And I think a lot of people say I'm a player coach. So I know my players just not on the field. I know them off the field as well. And just the communication, the life skills that we talk about all the time, just the little stuff that over time you get to keep those relationships available with the players is really important. So I think those are some key areas that I've been able to help push my coaching career with the players. But at the end of the day, from the offensive side, we want to play fast. Okay. Uh, Simplistic equals fast. And so I think when you can keep it simple, then you're able to maximize whatever concept or whatever you're trying to do for your players. And really that helps them do the play that you need them to do and execute at a high level. And I think that's something that's really important. A lot of times, I mean, you could have a lot of plays, but if it's the kids don't know what they're doing, they're not able to play fast, and that obviously the play might not work. So that's really important.
Yeah. And from an offensive perspective, just looking at your schedule, you've obviously put up a lot of points this year. So what are some maybe some schematic details that you like to focus on?
Yeah, I think for one, you have your base of who you are as an offense. Okay, so every coordinator has some things that they like to do. For us, we have our base plays, our base things that we like to do, and it's kind of our identity. A lot of offenses that are struggling, they don't really have an identity. Okay, and we do have our identity of who we are. I think that's important. And then really, once you have that base and that identity, now you can start scheming weekly because the kids know your base. They know what you are. Now you can start scheming specific plays or specific situations that you can help get your players in a situation to make the play. And that's one thing that we've always done. And really kind of, I'd say another one of my philosophies is we are never afraid to call a play. We're never afraid to put something in. If it will fit in our system and we can teach it, because it goes back to being good teachers, right? If we're good teachers and we can teach it in practice and our kids will execute it, then we're going to do it. We're not afraid to do anything. And so that's one thing I kind of learned over the years, that especially as a play caller, you can't be afraid to call certain plays. Okay. And you have to have confidence in it. And if your players are showing confidence during practice, then you need to call it if it's an opportunity to score points and move the ball.
Yeah. And you mentioned just a little bit ago that you identify as like a player's coach. And going back to my playing career, some of the coaches that I had that really resonated with me, I felt they did the same thing for me. And from my experiences, it's really the guys that care about their players, not just on the field, but as students, as people. And the more that you can do for the players to help them, because for the most part at our level, if we're Division III or NAIA like you, most guys aren't going to the next level. So it's about like teaching your players how to learn a skill. And I feel like those are the kind of things that players take with them to their professional careers.
Yeah, for sure. And I think once the players have that trust in you, they start believing in what you're preaching. And then after that, if they have the trust and they have the belief, they're going to do everything they can to make that play work. You know what I mean? It goes kind of back to your identity a little bit too, as your offense. And I think I've done a good job of that just over the years. And really kind of the college side with recruiting. When I have a kid on campus, especially if it's an offensive guy, I will specifically show him a clip of a play that's going to be that person. And I think, and I'm going to tell that player, hey, this is what you're going to be doing, and this is the play you're going to be running. And I kind of make it personal with them, and kids really like that. And especially today with how kids have kind of changed over the years, they got to see that type of stuff, and they got to have that trust, that belief, and the coach that the coach will have in them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the same goes for the other way. If for whatever reason you show that you don't have trust in your player, then things can kind of spiral out of control.
Oh yeah, for sure. And our kids know too, especially now, especially the college level. I mean, it's a little different than the high school level, but the college level, I mean, you've recruited those players, you went and got those players in your program, so already from the beginning, there should be somewhat of a little bit of trust there. But sometimes there's not. There's a kid that maybe, expectations not meeting reality, and they're not playing as much, or they're not really getting the look that they need to. And so sometimes as a coach, you gotta kind of force them a little bit. They say you can't make them drink the water, but you sure stick their head in there and make it drink it. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things that we try to do here is just kind of figure out the player and who they are, and try to base off their skill set and maximize it. Like I said.
Yeah. And kind of like what you were saying, like every player learns differently, and you kind of have to cater to their needs and however they're going to digest the information you teach them best.
Yeah, well, I taught in public schools for 9 years. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. Like everyone learns different. In the classroom, whether it's math class, science class, writing. I mean, everyone learns different, and so I think some of the best coaches are teachers, or coaches that have taught in a classroom, because they understand that. They understand how kids learn, and if a kid doesn't learn well, then they figure out how to maximize that kid's skill set, and teaching them how to learn. And so that's one thing I feel like I've always done a really good job with.
Definitely. So, any last words of advice, Coach Hanson, you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I would say just the coaching profession is the greatest profession in the world. And I think one thing that was taught to me early on is to have a plan. And if you want to be a coach, you want to be a coordinator, you want to be a head coach, the number one thing is you need to have a plan. And when you have a plan, and how you're going to execute that plan, I think all the other stuff is going to take care of itself. I would say also, do your very best job of where you're at right now, and align yourself and get in relationships with coaches who have the same kind of mindset as you, but also that can help you into your next job or something like that. And I think if you continue to do that, you do a good job where you're at, you win. I think that's a really big thing for you. Man, it'll be a great ride for you, and you'll continue to move up the ladder, and do have a lot of success on and off the field.
Yes, sir. So, Coach, congrats on all your success this year, and best of luck moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.